teaching every possible yes, I'm teaching every possible way that I can, right? I'm doing all those things. But guess what? Who feels like, I just want to know in the comments, who feels like you are caught between a rock and a hard place in education right now? Because
Yeah.
I feel, okay, see, I feel better now. I feel like there's a lot of people who know we need to do better, but the guidelines aren't there yet in our counties. So I am there too. Now, does that mean I know how to do everything perfectly correct? Absolutely not. Am I a constant work in progress? Yes. But guess what? So are your students. And when we mess up or we do something and all those things, like our kids see us do something wrong. And you know what? I'm the first to be like, man, I need to do that better. So those are the things. And I see people saying going to trainings. Absolutely. Like I am all about trainings. But here's the thing. We don't have subs right now. We still don't have subs back. So we can't just go to these trainings. Now, in the first time in 18 years, I am actually being allowed to go to a training, and I get to go to Orton Gillingham training in just a few weeks, which I'm super excited about as well. We have been like spiral down trained. But no, I haven't gotten the formal training, even though I've read the books. Like I got the books here, guys. I have read A Fresh Look at Phonics. I have read Reading Above the Fray. I got them. I have read Shifting the Balance.
I got that one. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just like you guys. I'm trying my best to navigate through here and to teach all of my kids to the best of my abilities. So you're not alone in this.
Yeah. I thought I was looking at some of the chat comments too, and people saying, you know, my kids came in knowing 4 letters. We're not even ready to start words yet, right? And I know with everything teachers have gone through the last 3 years, whatever it has been since COVID hit, everybody's behind. You know, everybody is catching up. We're playing that catch-up game. And I know even my wife, Patricia, I mean, Mary, you know, Tricia teaches 2nd grade, and she has kids coming in that don't know all their letters of the alphabet yet, naming letters of the alphabet. And it's just shocking to see what the world has gone through and the impact it's having on these kids, which is why I absolutely love working for this company and sharing this stuff everywhere I get the chance to, because we're bridging a gap that not a lot of other stuff does. Yes, there's all this stuff. I use that word a lot, stuff that we have to cram into the heads of all these little kids. But in my book, I talk quite a bit about this idea of substance over stuff. If we can't address the substance of what's going on in our classroom, and that these are little people in front of us and not just students that we have to cram information into, then we're not doing our job. And the substance of it comes with part of our title tonight. How do we engage these kids in the most efficient way possible so that we can keep the learning going and going and going and going and have them excited about it? Because we all know that when they're excited about learning, the learning is going to stick. That's a phrase we use quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And here's what I want to comment to the kindergarten teachers that are in here. We have 3rd grade teachers, 2nd grade teachers, 1st grade teachers who are coming down to us, asking us for help because they're teaching skills that they've never had to teach before, or they don't have time to plan to teach these skills because they're teaching their curriculum, and then they've got these kids who literally didn't go to school to get this stuff. So one of the things we are doing in my school as well is we're catching up. I'm trying to catch up other grades. But yeah, so here's the biggest trick, guys. Let me say this. You have to make the kids want it. You have to make them want to do the activities. So if I hand my kids a worksheet, I'm going to get a worksheet back from them, right? But if I actually engage my kids with something they want to do, I have their time, I have their energy, I have their focus. And that's when the learning occurs. Just like you say in your book, like I want my kids to play so much that they don't even know it's a learning game. And I do that as often as I can. And that's what we're going to talk about. How can you integrate academics into this play to make it super, super fun?
So where do you start? Let's back up, like people who are coming to you and asking, okay, let's start with the basics. You know, we're learning again, everybody's learning, relearning that phonics and phonemic awareness is where it is at. So when you're interested in letters and sounds, I'm going to show you guys some really cool stuff that we can do with the live studios. But what does your classroom look like, Mary, when you're not using a live studio software or our journals in place? So I know you're a big proponent of mixed instruction, direct and small group. So what does that look like typically?
Well, it's really funny because they're redoing my hard drive right now, Adam, so I can't use the live studios right now. So it's really funny. No. They're not replacing our computers, they're just doing a hard drive, so it's a big hurt right now. So first of all, when I go to teach phonics, we do a blanketed assessment at the beginning of kindergarten, just like everybody else does. And in our state, me and Cynthia both live in Georgia. It's called GKIDS. And we do just a readiness check to see where these learners are, right? Then when I give phonics instruction, guys, do not be scared of direct instruction. There is nothing wrong with quality whole group instruction. I get that kids love small group, and that's also a great time to use phonics, but don't say, oh, we're not going to teach this whole group. Yeah, every single kid in your class can probably use great phonics instruction. So we do start with a phonemic awareness program, and we just do that really quickly. Listen, when I lose engagement, we're done. So we're going to do some phonemic awareness. When I can integrate the Alive Studios, I absolutely do it in there too, because it makes it so easy that the sounds and the animals come alive. And hey, you want to get them with engagement, you hit them with some augmented reality, right? Right. Then we also are going to talk about formation of the letters in that time. We really start with initial sounds. And we use a blending board. So if you have ever had Orton Gillingham training, blending boards are super important. So we use a blending board, and we just start with those initial sounds. Now, here is one cheat I do. I use my assessments to guide my data. So I don't care what letter we're on. If I pull my assessments, and I don't know why this is true, but every year my kids know the letter X. It doesn't help with reading that much, but they do, right? They know this letter X. That X goes right on that blending board because most of my kids can identify it, right? Mm-hmm. Then I take the letter they usually identify the least. For me, that's usually Q. I don't know if this is true for all these other kindergarten teachers, Q. And I already know that I'm going to start talking about Q a whole lot before I even get to it. I don't teach Q until December. But if 5 kids in my class know Q and 25 don't, guess how much progress I can make by teaching Q? Does that make sense? So I'm going to do little mini lessons with those letters as much as I can, because I'm going to get a lot more progress. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense with X and Q, because those aren't huge letters for when we write. But think about what happens if you are looking at your data and you know that a bunch of kids know A. Pull A onto your blending board. If you know not a whole lot of them know S, S is everywhere, you can do mini lessons with that. So we kind of integrate our assessments with that. Also, we want to do sand trays. We want to do everything sensory that we possibly can, because we want them to be moving around. Phonics is not supposed to be quiet time. My kids are making motions, they're making sounds, they're manipulating things with their hands, and they're doing things. And that's super, super important. So that's honestly where I start. And then as we teach direct phonics lessons, now everybody's going to have their own phonics instruction that they're required to do, right? Put those little mini lessons in there that you know they're going to get to. You know, like when you teach the letter Y, don't forget that there is a sight word Y. When you teach the letter R, there is a sight word R. You know they're going to confuse that. Throw those in there too.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I want to jump to and before we jump into sharing some stuff on screen, one thing we usually ask in these, just because I'd love to know, put in the chat if you've never ever seen Alive Studios come to life, our animals, our 26 animals. I love to know, and maybe Cynthia, you already talked this before I jumped on, but kind of what is your experience? Anybody, if you've had experience with Alive Studios or not, let us know. All right, I'm seeing nevers. That's good. I like that. Yeah. So kind of playing off what Mary said, I was exactly the same way. I was very much a whole group instruction mini lesson, knock out what we have to do, because I know a lot of us are doing what we're supposed to do, right? Our administration hands us stuff. It's our part of our school-wide curriculum. We have to do it because they're going to need it in first grade. I am, if you know anything about me as a teacher, I am very much kind of an off the rails kind of guy. I love, animation, and I'm a very, you can see me talk my hands, but I still did what I had to do. I still taught the lessons I was supposed to teach when I was in the classroom. I still followed the instruction that I was supposed to do with it. But then I added in my own little things, like Mary just said, adding in things here and there that the kids need. I know she can't show you Alive Studios tonight because she said her computer's being reworked, so I get to show you, because this has become a very, 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 very important part of my classroom now. So a little background about my program. A lot of the students that I'm working with in the program that I run now, parents are sending their kids to me because they are needing that extra push, right? Either they're not on grade level, or they're not as engaged as they'd like to be, and they just need a little bit of extra help, something to get them excited about learning again outside of their normal school day. And I've been using Alive Studios in that program since the day I started it. So super excited to share some with you. I see a lot of you are nevers, and then some that have. So it looks awesome. I see a lot of comments there. That's great. So I'm going to show you, kind of playing off of what Mary said, where she starts with that initial letter, initial sounds. So can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
I'm going to make sure I reshare and hit the optimize for video. Okay. All right. So I am in our program called Letters Alive. So I know you're all excited to see this, but I want to point out a couple things here, because one of the things I know when Cynthia started this company and our team has kind of built and built and built, we put together, as you see across the bottom there, lesson plans. And I mentioned that my school had all these things I was supposed to teach. Well, one of the things that I love so much about the history of Alive Studios, it is always been a supplemental program. This is designed to enhance everything you're already doing. So I know Mary mentioned, and we can all think of the name of this program that uses arm movements and sounds for phonemic awareness, right? We all use that big blue book. So we like to complement that by adding some more engagement to stuff like that the kids are already doing. And that's one thing we love to talk about when we're training with schools, is we're not here to replace what you're already doing. We're not trying to tell you to just, ditch what you're doing already. We're here to add some more excitement to that. So when Mary's talking about all the fun ways with her blending boards and different ways with that explicit direct instruction that she does for introducing letters and sounds, I did that too. But then when my kids were in stations, or I pulled them to small groups for instructional group time, I opened up Alive Studios and we got to witness it in some more action, just to add some more value to what they were already learning. So when I click,
real quick. For
yes,
me, this added so much background knowledge for my kids who didn't have it. So when I was teaching at a school that the kids had never been to a zoo before, or maybe were very limited to their exposure, one of my favorite things was that this program automatically allowed them to become more knowledgeable about these animals simply by watching this. And that was super powerful for them. They didn't feel like they were they weren't ignorant anymore. Does that make sense? They gave them that power, and they were like, oh my gosh, now I know no more. So that was a big thing too, is it came with that.
No, I love that. And I talk about that all the time when we're demoing this. Cynthia and I were just on with one of the directors at Atlanta Public Schools yesterday. And that was one of the things we talked about, especially in bigger cities. And depending on where you live, kids might not have access to live animals and to go to a zoo and whatnot. Right. But let's not lie here. All kids know animals, right? Like that is one thing we can use. And one thing that Alive Studios definitely uses to do what I call level the learning playing field, right? Because like you said, all kids can relate from the time they were born. Every book, every movie, every TV show. I saw someone mention video games in the chat. Their whole world has had animals in it somehow, right? So it's that one thing that we can combine. I mean, there's not a child that can't name an animal, right? Like they might not have ever seen a giraffe in real life or know what a giraffe is, the sound it makes, but I guarantee they can name an animal. So that's one thing I love about this, is it really bridged that gap for your students that might not know the letter. They're right away going to understand what that animal is on the screen. So I mentioned giraffe. We're going to start there with one of our mascot. You saw her on my t-shirt. You see her on Cynthia's t-shirt there. This is our friend Gertie Giraffe. So if we're getting ready to teach the letter G to our students, obviously, I, like all of you, am using the programs that my school has in place. I'm using this as a supplement to add some more value. And like Mary said, really tie that background knowledge to it, because my green screen might be hiding this, but when I hold up this letter G card in front of my kids, some of my students are going to know that's the letter G, but not all of mine are ready yet. But I can guarantee you that even the ones that aren't ready to say G, they're going to start to notice that little shadow back there, that silhouette, and they might see that there's a giraffe hidden behind that letter G. And then this is where the magic of Alive Studios comes. And this is why I asked if some of you had never seen it before, because I love to share this for the first time. So when I take this card, Alive Studios uses what is called augmented reality. Different than what we all kind of are familiar with, virtual reality, right? Virtual reality, where we put on goggles, we immerse ourselves in a different world. Augmented reality does the opposite. It brings that virtual world to life in front of us. And that's what we get to do. So when I place this card under my document camera, which is what I'm showing you right now, where my hand is, it's just on this tracking mat that comes as part of my Live Studios kit. I place this card under, and this is what happens. How cool is that, right? Like, so there is that giraffe that they're all familiar with in some way, shape, or form, either from a movie, a book, or a TV show from when they were little, maybe their favorite stuffed animal, whatever it may be. But we see that G pop up, or I'm sorry, the giraffe pop up in front of the letter G. And I know so many of you are going to ask the question we get asked all the time, but wait a minute. Why are you teaching giraffe with the letter G? Well, we all know that it says two sounds. So why not introduce that to our kids right away, right? I have always been a big believer of teaching to the top. And here's why. There are some kids that are coming to my classroom not understanding that that G is even a letter, right? They don't know what it is. They just see squiggly lines. There are some students coming to my classroom that might know that's the letter G and they can name it. There are some coming to my classroom that might know that's the letter G and it does say G, but not very many of them are going to put together the fact that it can say two sounds. So why not introduce that right away? We're catching all of our learners because we know our ones that are going to get it are going to take that and fly, right? But our ones who might need a little bit more nurturing with just what the letter G is, at least they've been exposed to it from the start, right? So purposely, Live Studios did this to introduce both sounds that the letter G says, because if you notice at the bottom of the screen, there is a blue button that says character name or animal name. When I click on that,
Gertie, giraffe.
It tells us her name. So now they get to hear both sounds. Gertie is her first name. Giraffe is her last name. So we are strategically teaching the hard sound. If you hear little jingles, sorry, that's my dog running in my office because he likes to hang out down here and his collar's ringing. And the J sound in the word giraffe. And because this is augmented reality and it's using that camera with this card, I can pick this up, I can turn it. And one of my favorite things about this, I know Mary mentioned the learners who might not understand the letters, but tie the background knowledge, is you start to evoke some conversation here too. And let's be honest, a lot of the way these students are learning, I admit this all the time, my kids learn more from each other than they ever will from me. I mean, we should all admit that right now. Your students are going to learn more from each other this year than they ever will from you. That's just a tough pill you got to swallow. And this will evoke conversations. This will get your most reluctant, quiet learner to start talking a little bit about what they see on the screen. And you might start to tie together the fact that all of this is surrounded around that letter G that we see on the screen. But you'll notice at the bottom as well, there's that pink box, because we're not just here to talk about animals, right? We're here to tie it together. And when we click on, let me back up, click on the purple box real quick for you. We hear the animal sound, right? And I know giraffe, maybe that sound isn't something they're all familiar with, like they are a cow says moo or a dog says bark. Did you know that's the sound a giraffe made, Mary, before you heard this?
No, I remember when we would do one of the brown bear books talks about the sound they make, like polar bear, and it would say,
yeah,
like,
what do you hear?
Yellow, whatever. And we literally had to go to the computer and years ago and Google each sound, right? Because you don't know.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But when they do this, they are gonna find animals they're interested in. And look, when you put this up on screen and they're moving it around, they're looking at the pattern on the animal. They're looking at all the details on the face.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you can branch off with this and do writing activities. You can branch off on this and do so many things, because now they're becoming an expert on this giraffe, and see how that background knowledge is automatically. No one didn't know giraffe sounded like that. No one in that chat, unless they're a genius, knew that's what it sounded like.
and here's the other cool part is that we're going to use that background knowledge that this animal makes a sound, but we can tie that into the fact, well, here, friends, guess what? Letters make sounds just like animals make sounds, because when I click on letter mode, now I get to see the lowercase letter tied to the uppercase letter for the letter we're talking about, because we're not here to talk about giraffes. We're here to talk about the letter G. And then it makes sounds just like a giraffe makes sounds. So we all know now that a giraffe snorts, kind of like a pig. That's from the Midwest. That's an animal easy for us to relate to. But the letter G also makes a sound. If we push these buttons, we can hear it.
G. J.
We can hear the two sounds. So you see, we're really trying to do, like I said, what I call level that learning playing field. Tie together something that the kids already have familiarity with, with something brand new on this technology. So that's where we start. I know Mary talked about direct instruction with letters and sounds, because that's where it all has to stem from, right? Identifying the letter, understanding the sounds before we can ever start putting that together to make words, and then finding those sounds and words, and then reading sentences, right? So that's just a little introduction. I will show you some more animals, but Mary, do you want to talk about where you go from there? So
Sure.
You've introduced letters and sounds, and I know we're in October, so you've probably got kids starting to do blending and reading words. How do you take it to that next step in your classroom if we're following that pattern?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways that people in this room are going to be doing letters. Some hit them hard with it, and they're like every letter ever made, and then work about blending. Our program kind of does the opposite. We go about 2 letters a week, and we go really slow. And I like that because we concentrate a lot on the formation and the sounds. And here's the thing, I don't have to keep spiral reviewing on a regular basis because we get it really good the first time. Does that make sense? And then when we do C, this is going to say what program I use, but you know what, it's fine. C-O-A-D. When we get to D, we start blending. And we do our hand tapping, which you can't see because it's so dark. I'm so sorry. C-O-D, cod. And then we also start doing tapping. Now, here's what I have learned about tapping. Kids are not good at it because they have to use both sides of their brain, right? So lots of people do different ways. Now, remember, I have not formally gone to Orton Gillingham, but my peers who have been, I'm like, let me see what they say about tapping. I have my kids take their writing hand and they write with it. And I call it their tapping hand, which is their other hand. And I have them tap with the hand they don't write with. If that's wrong, I'm going to figure it out in 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure it's not because I looked at the paperwork. And so we tap and then we write because I want them to tap and write. Some people have them tapping with the hand they write with, but then they can't tap and write at the same time. So we work really, really, really hard at that. And it is one of those things that has become more successful. Now, here's the thing everybody's going to get. I have a file I'm giving everybody who attends this, and it has tapping out hands that I'm giving you guys. And so I literally tape these down to my kids' desks, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4. We do tapping out 4, and then it has it for lefties too. I have 5 lefties this year. That's a lot. That's like a lot of lefties. And so we're working really hard on tapping it. So we want to say it, we want to clap it, we want to tap it. And that is a difficult concept. They don't learn that. And Adam knows this. They don't learn that the first week or the second week or the third week, but it starts to happen. And that light bulb goes off on their faces. And they're like, oh my goodness, we got this. And now here's the other beautiful thing about the program that we do use. We only concentrate on the sounds we've covered. So as they learn more letters, we decode with more, we build with more words, right? And yes, we throw those sight words that match those in there for sure, because that's the easy ones, because we're working with them and they get success. So my recommendation to everybody in here is look at the words that you have taught or that your kids have mastery of. Use those on your blending board, use those for tapping out, and let those kids get that confidence. Because once they start getting confident, then they're gonna want to do more and go to sounds that maybe they're less confident with because they feel like they can do it. You want them to get that first success. Does that make sense?
Totally does. I love that. Yeah. Cynthia, I want to mention just before we get done here tonight, maybe have you share, or I can pull up the end too and show our funding ideas page on our website. I know a lot of people are mentioning, would love to have this, but not sure my district would afford it. So we should make sure we share our ideas we have for funding options.
Yeah, I talk about win early literacy. Maybe at the end we'll talk about some funding.
Pop up that page or something.
Let's talk about
so
that.
Someone asked about more animals. So I'll show you a few more as we start doing some blending, because that's the next spot, right? We show the letters, the sounds, and we take those sounds, start building words. So let me reshare and I'll show you some more. I'll show you a few of mine. I saw some, oh no, it's opening. Bear with me. I did not mean to open the lesson plans. So you'll all get a sneak peek at this because you'll see it's going to take a little while to open over Zoom. When I mentioned lesson plans, I totally clicked on that by accident. We have put together Animal Week, and I saw someone in the chat mentioned they did our Zookeeper ABC Bootcamp 26 animals, 26 days at the start of their year. That's awesome to hear. After that, in Alive Studios, Letters Alive, Classrooms Alive, everything, we also have digital PDFs of year-long or 26 weeks worth of lesson plans that I was on part of a team to write. We had so much fun doing this. We put together, I told you it's going to take a little while, lesson plans that include a lesson for every single animal, 5 days, surrounded around tons of literacy skills. We also include literacy center activities, crafts, snack ideas, all kinds of stuff, including that, stories and all kinds of stuff that we've tied together for each of those animals. So that's what I accidentally clicked on, and it's taking a little while to open. Number one, because we're on Zoom. Number two, because it's like 1,200 pages worth of lesson plans almost that you get as a part of your Letters Alive kit when you purchase. So it's not just the cards, it's not just the camera. We do supply you with a lot of stuff. So here, I'm not going to scroll through it all, y'all, because you can see it's 1,189 pages, I think. But yeah, like I said, a bunch of, and it's a clickable PDF. So when you click on these, it takes you right to that page. There's one of our social emotional stories that are included. So I'm not going to go into the details of that because we could be here all night long. I'm going to close that and go back to this. All right, you can see my screen again?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So I want to share with you a couple other animals. Some that I know y'all are familiar with, but I want to show you something really cool when we talk about engagement. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Sergio Seal, and I usually do this one first for one little trick, and I'll show you right here. Here's Sergio Seal. How cool is that, right? But watch this. Sergio swims around, but then I can say this. Hey, Sergio, can you show everybody in the chat tonight how you do a flip? And there he does his little flip. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, this is sound activated too. It's not, but your kids don't need to know that. Sergio flips every 10 seconds. Much like if you were watching Close with Gertie, she kind of paused at the ground every 10 seconds. So you can start to learn those little quirks about our animals, and your kids will think that you are training or talking to the animals as you work with them. So that's another one of our letters, Sergio Seal. Here is another one that is pretty unique, and I did not do that on purpose, but it is the letter U. Now, that was a tough one, right? What animals do we know this? Well, unicorn, but we're not going to put a unicorn in our zoo. So check this out. This is pretty cool. This is called a unicorn. It's a formal name. They like to whine.
I think they were in my class today.
I don't know why it's still going. But this is Ola U now. So again, kind of like we did the hard and soft G, we're using the long and short vowels as well. So Ola U now with the long U sound. We do that with all 5 of our vowels. So but I love showing Ola because it's an animal that not a lot of people relate to the letter U, but that's a formal name for this type of sloth, a U now. This one is, it's hard to play favorites because these are like our babies, right? When we're zookeepers, the Alive Studio Zoo, but Percy Peacock is one of my favorites, mainly for the way that he likes to show off. This is Percy Peacock. Engagement. I mean, imagine how engaged your kids are going to be when they see that pop on the screen right there. And they're going to relate that letter P to that peacock right away. But I want to jump into now what Mary was sharing with us about tapping. Some of you might call it tapping out. Some of you might tap on your arms. Some of you call it blending. I know there's so many different words out there. Ours, we used a program, and I'm not going to say it because y'all can guess, I'm sure, where we tap, 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 swipe, and we swipe the word together, which we still did. Even after I had Alive Studios in my classroom, we still followed that instruction. This, like I said, just added more engagement and more fun to really, really boost that learning after we finished our curriculum, quote unquote, lessons, right? So I'm going to switch over to another module in Letters Alive, and that is called Building Words. So down here at the bottom of my screen, if I click on this blue box, it brings up this orange box, and it's going to reload my camera. So now that we're trying to build words, my camera is not going to recognize these cards as animals. It's simply going to recognize them as letters. And the cool part about this is, for, like I mentioned, even your most reluctant learners or ones that might still be struggling with the letter sound correlation, we give you a little bit of help with that. Because when I lay down the letter B, watch.
B.
We hear that initial sound, B, right? Not B, we hear B. I'll do it again.
B.
Right there. So your students right away are reinforced with the fact that the letter B says B. If they need to hear it again, we can click on the purple button.
B.
We can hear the name.
B.
We can even switch to uppercase. Back and forth. So you'll notice it did not pop up a bear. It popped up the letter B and told us the sound. And then I could put down one of my vowels and I'll hear the vowel sound.
Eh.
And it pops up with the short vowel sound, but you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, it does give me the option to hear the long vowel sound. And then I can put down another letter.
D.
So now we could review our tapping, like Mary said, maybe on your desk or wherever you have your tapping or your blending board. You could have your kids do this out loud. And then for more reinforcement, you just slide these little cards together, much like in my program, we would swipe.
It's my favorite part.
What?
I love it. It's my favorite part. Do it.
Oh, I can tell what you were saying. So watch this, everyone. So we could say B, E, D. Do you know what word it is? And as soon as your students say it, you can say, "You're right, friends," and then do this.
Bed.
And it reads the word to them. Now, don't ask me how it works. I don't know. I'm not the technology guy behind this. Everybody asks me that when I'm out demoing or I'm working with a school or they visit my classroom. They're like, "How does this work?" And I always say, "I don't know how it works. It just works. It just works." How it works is behind the brains of Cynthia and her team. But it just works. And kids start to grab onto this. They really, really do, because they already recognize that this is a B because we've drilled and drilled and drilled. They're recognizing that this is an E and it can say two sounds, but in this word we heard eh, and that this is a D. And we know from tapping and blending that when we slide them together, we build a new word. So we have, Cynthia, remind me of the number, because I always forget the number of word combinations they can build.
Over 1,200.
Yeah,
words.
so 1,200 plus words. Here's another one we could do. Here we have initial P, not P, like some videos that you watch on YouTube might say, P, right? Here's and
G.
And you'll notice it puts out that initial hard sound that we hear mostly in words when G is there. When we slide these together,
Pug.
we can hear the word pug. So imagine that you can do over 1,200 different word combinations. The really cool part about this, for those students who are beyond just CVC words, in Letters Alive, we have also included digraphs, rhymes, and blends. So you'll notice I'm simply using 3 cards, right? But if I were to use, I have them right down here. I dropped them right when we were getting started. If I were to use some of my digraph, rhymes, and blends cards, I could build words with more letters in them. Like I could do a BR blend and teach our students that are ready for those blending options.
Brr.
And we hear brr, and then I could put down
Ick.
ick. And when I slide those together,
Brick.
we hear the onset and the rhyme, and we put them together to build a new word. So there is so much growth that you can do with your students as you work through your year if you're using a program like ours, because it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And it was strategically done to do that, to work with your students as they grow.
That's awesome. I always watch it like it's the first time I've seen it, but Mary, tell us a little bit more about your sight words. And I know you've got some free things that we're giving away and listening. Tell us a little bit, and maybe Adam can show what you're talking about.
Sure. Well, first of all, so I literally have this open for my students to use. I lead it. After I've led it for a little while, I let my students use this. So that's a big thing I want to tell you too. It's really cool for you to do it, but it's also really cool for them to do it. And they respect it because it's so awing and so engaging that they love it. I do limit the cards for them because kids need limitations, just so you know, so we do that. But how do we do this with sight words? Well, one of the things we do is I teach a lot of sight words a week, obviously, right? So literally off my pocket chart in my classroom, I literally pulled our sight words for this week, okay? So this is our regular sight word cards. I like these. These are called snap words. I don't know if you guys have seen these. So we use these. Mm-hmm. These have a language and emotion with them as well. So we use those. Yeah, they're similar to iWords. I see somebody saying that. So let me get a good one. I got them all. Okay, all's a basic sight word. You could probably decode it. That ain't. Let's do one that's decodable. It's a little bit easier. I twang a little bit, so I got to watch it. Did said I did this. Okay, so my kids can decode this, right? Why is the light when look? I'm gonna hold this right there so the light works the whole time.
It's looking fine.
So anyway, so this is the word did. So we're going to talk about this one. We're going to clap it. We're going to tap it. We can build this on the Alive Studios. It's going to build this word for us. It's going to say did. Well, now I want to use orthographical mapping to do this. And I'm going to give you guys a little orthographical mapping sheet. So we're going to go and we're going to go duh, duh. You can do this tapping. I don't care how you do it. Just get your kids tapping, get them hearing the sounds. And so we're going to say duh, duh, D. D says duh. That's right. That's the sound it makes. I says it. D says duh. So then we're going to like go duh, id, did. And the good thing is Alive Studios is doing it right there with you. So as you're doing it, it's saying it. And it's saying it clearly so that all the kids are hearing. Even like, think about all the masks. Think about how it's so hard to hear for all the kids to hear in the classroom, especially during COVID. They need you to be louder and clearer than ever. Okay, so we're going to do that with did. Now, when we get to other sight words, okay, I got Y this week. It's super fun. So this is our sight word Y. Y is a rule breaker, right? So when we go to map this one, Y, I. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have to look up a lot of these things because how I say it might not be correct. But this week when we did this as a class, right? I. We were like two sounds. So we talked about how WH said what. Well, we haven't talked about the WH sound. So my kids put a little heart and they colored it in on your mapping sheet. It's going to have a heart under each one. So your kids can just color it in where it goes. And then we said, okay, so that's what. We don't know that sound yet. Now, some of the kids were like, I know WH says what. So they did not color in their heart. That's okay. And then we know that this Y is actually making the I sound, but we haven't learned that either. So this is like a double rule breaker. And they were like, we don't even like this word. Well, guess what? The world doesn't like this word. So we're talking about that. Now, here's what you can also do, especially if you're with me. You want to teach these. You want to do orthographical mapping, right? You want to be tapping it out. What if you took a little heart cutout? And what if you put that heart cutout on your Alive Studios map? What happens then, Adam, when you put the little heart there?
Nothing. That's the cool part is as long as you're, and I can share with you, as long as you.
Right.
What's that?
It does all the normal things. It doesn't interfere with the technology, right?
It does not. Yeah. So like if I put down the word the, I was going to grab a card that would be like said. I can't find my said card because I know we were going to use that as an example. But you can see if I just use like a paper heart, it doesn't interfere. So if you're teaching heart words, I know for some of you that I know Mary taught me that heart words are words you're supposed to know by heart. I always referred them as brain words because they're just up here. You just got to know them. But yeah, you can place stuff on these cards. So as I'm in building words, let me switch back because you'll actually hear the word being read. If you don't want it read to them and you really want to focus on that sound, I could stay in building words. You notice I put the word the down, it didn't say anything. But if I want to reinforce the word the, or I saw someone in the comments say that they use building words as a race to see if they can build the word before the teacher slides it together. So maybe it could be, I want to see if you guys can figure out this word before I slide it down under my camera, because once you put it under your camera, it reads it to you. So when you're in building letters and building sentences, it's going to read it to you. But you'll notice when I place that down, nothing changes. We also have the reinforcement of touching that word at the top of the screen to rehear it with our students. And then I saw someone said they love using the sight words to start building sentences. And I know we were going to work towards that. I want to be, honest of everybody's time tonight. And maybe just show a sentence so people can kind of see how that works. Because once we get past that point of introducing letters and sounds, right? And building sounds into words, the key is really for our students be able to read fluently and find words in text that they can just read, right? And I know, Mary, you have put together some awesome products that we're going to share a picture of here at the end. I know you told me to grab mine. I couldn't find the ones that I needed. I have all of Mary's stuff from when I was in the classroom, but if y'all could see behind this big green curtain right here where my map is, I have boxes of stuff from my kindergarten classroom. So I just want to show you one more cool thing, because when your students are ready to start reading words and text and using those tricks and those tools that they've learned, we want to be able to share with them some sentences on screen for them to practice, and we can use as re-instruction. So if we put down the, and we'll use the seal, now we can use that background knowledge of, friends, you know what? We're starting to read and write sentences. Look what happened to that letter T. It turned into a capital because we're trying to build a sentence. So we're going to put down the seal
can,
and then we could also use this as a teaching tool. All right, the seal can. Is that a sentence, friends? Not a sentence. We have to say what the seal can do. So let's find out. Do you think a seal can jump? Let's find out.
jump,
He says yes, because seals can jump. He's telling us, yes, I can jump. And you'll notice there's another word that we could start to sound out with that blending those sounds together. We could also use a word like, I just had it right here, teaching some of our S blends, right? Our SW blend. Watch what happens. Sergio, do you know how to swim?
swim,
And he actually starts swimming for us. So he's showing the kids and reinforcing their learning when they start to read those sentences that he's doing what is told of him. So I don't want to focus all our time on just sharing our stuff, Mary. So tell us about some of the stuff you used to teach sight words. I know one of my favorite things of yours, and I said I didn't have it, but I'll share the image of it.
I have it, so we're good.
Okay, your QR packets that you, and she's giving away tonight to a winner.
Oh yes, we are definitely giving away. Okay, so the first thing is that everybody has words that they're working on in their own order. I get it. And mine are given. Like, I have to teach these sight words this week. This is my must. I don't get to pick and choose that. This is what we're doing this week. So I introduce them, we decode them. We can do it in tons of fun ways, engaging and making sure they're paying attention. But then we literally go to small groups to break this up. Why? Because everybody in my classroom learns a different way, right? So let me give you some examples. This is just a page because I couldn't bring them all, but we play memory with our sight words so that they're saying it over and over again. This is another one. This is when they take letter cards, and I have a table pen, and they literally build the sight words just like you would on the Alive Studio screen, just like you would anywhere else. And they're going to go said, and they're going to build it. They can also write with lots of different things. They can do sensory approach there too, because your kids are going to need sensory. Even if you introduce them to this on Monday, that's not enough. They need more and more sensory. And this is a little picture of how we do it. So they build the cards and then they keep saying it. Well, people always ask me, how do you know that they're doing it correctly? Well, because we're really loud in my class. My classroom's never quiet. And because I can leave those exact sight words up on my Alive Studios. And then what happens is if they don't know the word, they can come lay it down on the screen and they can push the little button that says say it, and it will say it to them. And listen, right. I don't care if you do it 45 times. I really don't. If you need that word why 15 times today, so does the rest of the class, and it helps everybody. Now, I told you, I literally grabbed these. So if I'm sick from school tomorrow, we're going to have a problem. So we literally, like, this is a little tray that we do, and we literally build it with a magnet. So we push them all down to the bottom, and we build it WANT, want. Now, my kids will take little paper hearts and do the same thing. They'll put the hearts where they need the hearts to be. And every kid's different. There are some words that are always rule breakers, and there are some words that are only rule breakers until we get to that phonics pattern. So we do red hearts and pink hearts, ones that are always rule breakers and ones that are just rule breakers right now. So those are some of the things we do. I'm gonna reach down real quick and show you. I think as creators, we all have things that we love, right? We have things that we just enjoy so much. This is one of those things I made, and it's one of my favorite things I ever made. And this is what Adam was talking about. We're giving away a huge pack of these, but this is called a QR printable. And what happens is that your kids scan this code right here, and an audio file pops up and teaches them and does this whole activity with them in 4 to 5 minutes. And they say it, spell it, say it over and over and over and over again. So why is this awesome? Well, it's awesome because it's audio, which means they have to look at the paper. That's the goal, right? I want them focusing on what I want them focusing on. And then every kid in your classroom can be working on a different sight word they need. And that's a big deal because, see, I have to teach what I have to teach. But what if Cynthia had the flu last week and she missed and doesn't know it's a rule breaker and she needs that lesson all over again? Are you right? Are you with me? So now every kid in my class can get this. They can go to their iPads or their Chromebooks or whatever devices you have, and they're all working on their individual sight word. Also,
That's great.
Well, and it's needed. Teachers can't do that lesson individually times 25, but literally everybody is spending about the same amount of time. And here's what I do for my ESOL or my English as a second language learners. I let them take it home with them and they can practice it at home at their level. And here's what I learned. My low kids listen to it 2 or 3 times. My high kids listen to it 2 or 3 times because they like it. My middle of the road kids, they're like, I got it. Like, because it says it more than 27 times, which is what research says, right? So that is a tool that we are giving you guys as a giveaway because it absolutely works. And Adam, you used it.
What Adam was talking about is we're associated with a nonprofit, and that vision was born because of teachers who really want to use live studios in the classroom, but they don't have funding for whatever reason. They can't get it in the classroom. winearlyliteracy.org was born. So if you go to winearlyliteracy.org, you can actually apply. It says a teacher, apply for a grant for your teacher. And you can go online and apply for it. It's no guarantee, but you fill that in and tell your story and why you think live studios would be helpful and impactful. And it goes to Win Early Literacy. They look at it and look for funders and foundations to help make that happen. Help somebody. That's good. So
yeah, I also put up our website. So Win Early Literacy is definitely a place to go. But if you head to our site, alivestudiosco.com or alivestudioszoo.com, under About Us, sorry, I don't know why my screen is highlighting, how to buy, funding options, it takes you to this page where we put together quite a bit of lists of how to put things together. I even saw someone said donors choose in the chat earlier. So right there is what Cynthia is talking about as well. And it's as easy as submitting a grant request telling, what you're going to do with it. So check out that page for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's a good one. And there's a lot of COVID dollars out there. I would talk to your principal. There's a lot of funding out there to help with.
Can I give a tip too?
Yeah.
Here's my secret, people. Okay. Before I leave for summer vacation, don't wait this long. Let me do something now. I always put together a few purchase orders and I slide them into the bookkeeper's mailbox and I call them pennies from heaven. And if the finances, I'm not lying, guys, this is what I do. And if the finances shake down over the summer, right, because they have their end of their financial year and somebody has money in some pot that they don't have, I happen to have a few purchase orders that are just ready to go right there. And it makes it a little bit easier to say, oh, we have $1,500 in technology that we didn't spend or some other school didn't spend and they're going to lose it. Hey, blah, 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 blah. What if your purchase order is just sitting there ready to go? I mean, a purchase order doesn't mean it's a guarantee.
Great idea, actually.
I'm just saying that's what I do before I leave. I just put a few and if pennies from heaven fall, I have come back in August to things I didn't think I was getting before.
I love that.
That's for sharing that. That's a great tip. I've not.
Nobody from my school do that, just me.
Hey, I also want to point out too, if those of you are here and you have to go and you can't stay and watch if we want to share a journal, we are constantly sharing snippets of our products on Instagram and other social media platforms. So we would love it if you would head to Instagram right now. If you don't already follow us, follow that account right there. I think you can still see my screen, Alive Studio Zoo, because we share quite a bit. And one of the things you can get while you are there, if you don't already have them, in our link tree, another freebie for y'all tonight. We have 26 free SEL stories that you can get by visiting a link and adding your email in there. You'll get that as a download to use with your students. So definitely check that out. We love to stay in touch with teachers. I know one of my favorite things as an educator is networking with other educators. We as a company, I know Cynthia says this a lot of the new things that come around, or because a teacher brought them up at some point. So we love hearing from you. We love staying in touch with all of you. So please give us a follow, and we'll follow you back, and just stay in touch. And then you also learn about more webinars in the future.
Yeah. So somebody asked the website, I guess, alivestudios.zoo.com, and you can find it all. So I guess that kind of officially closes the webinar, but if you guys stay on, you'll get the bonus of, and hey, we might give something away again, you never know.
I love the journals,
Never know.
guys.
Yeah. So go ahead, Adam, show the journals because they are crazy. They're
Wait, while you
All
get
right.
it out, I'm going to tell them what I like about it.
Okay.
As a teacher,
All right,
okay?
Mary, tell us.
Because listen, I'd say it straight. I'm a pretty blunt person. First of all, here's what I like about the journal. I like that they are independent. So if you don't have any other technology going on in your classroom and you guys are limited, you can get the journals. I also like because it's a really good bridge between home and school. You can work on it at home and then work on them in school and then send it home, and they can still integrate learning at home at the end of the year. So I love that. I don't use these journals in the beginning of the year. I love to use them in May because our handwriting is awful and COVID did not help. So I love that for that, because once we do the journals together and you send them home, that I call it a QR code, but that augmented reality code on there really it initiates games and different things they can play at home. So it puts that in the hands of them at home over the summer too. So that's why I like that. You can scan these on an iPad, and it works really, really great, because when you scan it, when the kids put the iPad down, the image stays on the iPad, people. Do you hear my words? Like, you know how when you scan something and then you go somewhere else and it loses it? This doesn't do that. When you scan the elephant comes on screen, and then you can go like this everywhere, and the elephant still stays on screen, even if the
Right.
Okay, that's what I like about it. You can go
Yeah.
ahead.
No,
Adam.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, thank you for that compliment about my book too. Laura, I put my email in the chat. It's just adam@alivestudiosco.com. Make sure you send me your either school or home address, whatever it is, and I'll put that in the mail for you when I get a chance. So I'll share my screen again. Those of you that want to stick around, if you can't stick around, we know it's late. Thank you all for everything you're doing in education. That's something I always try to address. We all know from experience with people who are in our families that are teachers, or we ourselves as teachers, everything you've been through the past few years. So thank you for sticking through it. Thank you for doing what these kids need. Thank you for being there for your kiddos, because they need you now more than ever. So thank you for all you're doing. If you have to go, we appreciate your time tonight more than you will ever know. But we are going to share one more thing. So this is, I'm not gonna lie, like Mary says, another one of my favorites. I say a lot of favorite things about this. I'm sharing the wrong screen with you right now. There, I have so many windows open.
Hey,
all right,
while
go
ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, while you're trying to get to your iPad or your phone, the journals also come with a free download parent guide in English and in Spanish. So when you send them home for family engagement, you can print out that free parent guide for the families that maybe are speaking just Spanish to help them along. And that's been very popular.
Yeah, so I'm opening my document camera again. You do not need the document camera to use the journal, but I just wanted to show you the journal, that it is a full book that comes when you get it. This is a pre-K version of the journal that I have right here. So you don't need the document camera. This is done on a mobile device. I'm just showing you what it looks like. So inside there are stickers for each of your students.
Wait a second, Adam. I staple the stickers right there. See where they're at right there?
That's
I
a
take
good
my
idea.
stapler and I staple it right there. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So then you don't lose the sticker sheets. That's clever. Good idea, because I have sticker sheets everywhere. As they learn a letter, master letter, whatever it is that you want to do as mastery goes, you peel off the sticker, they get to add it to their journal. And then each page, there's directions of how to get the free app, how to use it. And then each page is focused, or sorry, each page spread is focused on one of our animals from Alive Studio Zoo, the same animals that they meet in Letters Alive. So this is, like I said, our pre-K version of our journal. Our pre-K version has a coloring page where they get to color the animal, and then a bunch of blank white space for our youngest learners to really, really just practice at their own pace how to draw and write letters. Our kindergarten version of the journal has writing lines and then activities associated with each animal. But the magic of these, because I know some of you are looking at this and going, well, I already have writing pages, but you don't have writing pages like this, because the magic comes in right here. This is what is called a scan bug. And this scan bug makes the journal come to life, just like Letters Alive makes the cards come to life. So I'm going to shift my screen share over to my phone right now. You can use a mobile device like a phone or an iPad. On our website, it lists all the different devices that you can use. I need to do a new share with my phone.
And here's the other thing while you're doing that. I don't let my kids put their own stickers on there. I check their work and they earn their sticker. I am the sticker queen. So they are stapled on there, but they have to get it approved by me, because in the kindergarten version, I want the correct formation. So, and that is something that I do. And it works really well that way. So I staple them in that front page next to where the stickers are, and I'm the only sticker person. But everybody can move at their own pace too. So they don't have to do, like, somebody can be on A, somebody could be on W, somebody could be on Y. I don't care about all that. But I'm the sticker queen.
That's a good idea. I like that. All right, my phone screen mirroring is not wanting to work the way it usually does for us when we do this.
Of course it doesn't. Listen,
to
guys, these journals are amazing.
Here we go.
And
All
I
right,
will
now
tell you,
it's
my
good.
parents always say at the end of the year, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing journal. And they think like I did it. Like they think I made it and then I'm that awesome. And I'm like, you're
That's
welcome.
okay. That's
You're
right. You're
welcome.
Like I
welcome.
didn't do it.
Take the
So
credit.
you can see my phone screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm already in the Alive Studios free app called Journals Alive. You download from the App Store. It's asking me if I already have one of the journals. There's a little bit of walkthrough when you open it the first time, that's answering questions. This is not my first time opening it, so I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to click on the My Letters Alive journal. We do have a Math Alive journal as well. We're going to do the orange Letters Alive. It's telling me that yes, it uses augmented reality. I'm going to hit OK, and then you'll see right away, because I've already given it permission, it's accessing my camera. I'm not going to show you my entire office because my desk is a mess. But
And
what
you
I do
only
want
have
to
to do
show
that
you,
once per device. So once you go
Yes.
around and say yes to do it, then it works seamlessly for everybody else. You don't have to do it every single time.
Right.
so I'm going to switch to Henry Horse. He's pretty fun to show on the journal. So you'll notice, I'm going to hide the bug. I'm just using my camera and I can see my journal right there. I'm holding my phone up. But when I scan the bug, watch
And
this.
it's a simple, easy scan for little kids. Look how quick it goes. Like you don't have to be a great scanner to get it.
I hope your sound's on.
Yeah.
There you
Did
go.
it make the sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry
Okay.
Horse.
So there's Henry Horse. I can put him like running across my computer. So there he is running across my Zoom screen while I'm watching all of you on Zoom right now. You can put them all around your room. I don't know if it'll show up on a green screen. Well, it's just going to look like a green screen, I guess, not my Zoom app. I can put
Yeah.
my hand out and make it look like where's my hand? Like he's running in my hand. So your students can do this. And then you can also use that. I can't point to it, but you can see the green camera button. They can take a picture of their environment, or their friend can take a picture of them with Henry Horse in the classroom.
And then we use
then
that for writing prompts.
Yes. So I can move him around on screen, and then you'll notice that I have those same functions that I had in Letters Alive. I have my sounds.
Henry Horse.
We have our letter mode. I can move the letter around.
H.
And then when I clicked on letter mode, and if you notice, but there's that little orange circle that popped up. There's a free handwriting app built into this. And the best thing about it, it doesn't allow your students to write the letter the wrong way. So when I click trace the letter,
H.
they have to start at the top. There are some apps out there that allow them to do it wrong. This makes them write it I got outside the lines. From the top down. So I know if we stayed here all night, we could go through all of these and talk about every single page of the journal. But there are, like I said, 26 different pages that you can flip through. Each animal does scan. Each animal is on the screen for the students, and they get to interact with them in their own environment. Cynthia, I know you're one of the big things you're passionate about with the company is student privacy as well. So tell them about the camera and the function that's built into these.
You talking about when they take turns or?
Yeah, like when they take pictures.
Oh yeah, so when they take pictures, it just goes into your camera roll and that's it. So it's in your device, whether you're using a Amazon Fire Pad or Android or iPad, it's private in your device. There's no cloud or anything like that unless, no, it should go to your device. And the other thing about social emotional is that you cannot take a selfie with this. You have to take turns and talk to your friends. Like Adam, okay, pet the horse. All right, I want to take your picture. Ching. All right, would you take my picture? And you do group shots. So you're encouraging sharing and taking turns and talking to each other, live. So, but hey, we can, why don't we give away a twin pack tonight with people that have been kind of just staying on? We can give away a Letters Alive and a Math Alive journal where you're actually feeding the animals, which is a lot of fun, right? Because they get hungry. Somebody's got to feed them. And then they'll learn their numbers and shapes. So
they're my favorite. Literally, guys, like you can have very little technology in your classroom and you can utilize these. And I've said this before, let me say this again. It doesn't matter what school I've been in. Guess what almost every parent has? A smart device.
Right.
They do. That's everywhere now. So they can use this regardless at home. So we always do it in the classroom. And you can see how with that little tracing feature, how when you're done with it in the classroom and go home, it's still super valuable.
Yeah. And that's why
I'm so glad, Mary, that you
free.
mentioned the writing prompt too, because in one of our videos on our website from my kindergarten classroom, I was working with a little girl, Haley, and that she would go to this every single day, take a picture of herself with the animal. I'd print it off because she would beg to write stories about the animal. So we would print off pictures of her like going like this, like with the alligator in our room, and print it off, put some writing lines, and she would just go to town writing story after story after story. So there's so much to this. I know Cynthia mentioned there's so much more beyond what I talked about with Letters Alive. Same thing with this, scanning that bug is just the beginning. There is so much learning into these journals. I know as a teacher, when I first got them, I was blown away, and I still am every time I get to introduce them one of my kids for the first time. Hey, before they jump off to Cynthia, can you show your shirt a little bit on screen there? Because yours is newer than mine.
Yeah,
so
mind-boggling.
When I say keep an eye on social media, everyone, keep an eye on our social media, because we're about to launch something really, really, really cool. And we're even going to be pushing out, I don't know if I can say this yet or not, but some Alive Studio merch. So
yeah,
keep your eye out for it, because there's some pretty cool stuff coming. We've put some teasers out there already, but if any of you are in the DC area and going to NACE, our entire team is going to be there. You can come hang out with us at our booth. We'd love to see you there, but keep an eye on social media, because you're going to want to get some of this stuff.
Some fun things. Well, listen, Mary and Adam, I can't thank you guys enough to spending your evening with us and sharing the stuff that you love and use. And we really, really, really appreciate it. So, and thank you guys for hanging with us tonight. It's always fun and hearing your comments and doing a little life together. Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.